For those of you listening, hello. And for those of you viewing this, I'm sorry that I'm dressed like a guy who owns a crappy yacht because I just came from the CBC up front.
Is that your typical attire?
Look, man, I don't know. I got like the club jacket.
The buttons are off the hook.
I'm really, I've got way too much flair going on, certainly to be sitting here at Q. This is the hey, we just want to get to the bottom of some stuff and talk and have a real conversation. It's Shad and we're here and we're hanging and I'm dressed like the bad guy from like a Revenge of the Nerds film or something, like with a mustache and everything. Like I look like the evil. I look like the guy who's trying to get like Ferris Bueller and his wacky pals out of my restaurant, and I don't believe that he's Abe Froman. You know what I mean? It's a really good look for me. At least I wasn't in front of all of the media outlets and advertising buyers of the nation. Oh wait, I just did that. Oops. Sorry, everybody. I'll be kicked out of Canada again soon.
But you grew up in Canada, Lower Mainland BC, right?
That's right, in Ladner, BC.
Ladner, BC, and then after many years in the U.S., you're back here. With a hidden camera show for CBC TV. It's called Fool Canada. Pranking will never get old. No. What do you love most about this kind of comedy?
Well, a few things. I've never done anything like this. So when I was approached to do this, I was like, I really honestly was a little bit scared of it because I'm an actor first, and then of course I'm an improviser, and I do comedy stuff and all that sort of silly thing and a bunch of characters and all that stuff. And that's fun, but in this form, I've never done anything like this. And it was the fact that I was actually daunted by it and found it to be a bit scary because I'm like, well, I like that I can just sort of perform in quote-unquote long-form improvisation with people that don't know that they're my scene partner. Mm-hmm. That sounds cool. Mm. And here are, 10 or 20 variables that make things, it could go really wrong. And it turned into, before I signed up to do it, those are the things that actually really attracted me to it and made me feel like I'd, in a manner of speak, be a wussy if I didn't do it because I felt challenged by it and was like, there could be some really weird, cool comedy here. And the idea of just playing characters in, again, like a long form improv, just talking to people and the ultimate sell of trying to get the general public to believe that you're a different person. Because I love doing characters, and sometimes when I do a character, I want to stay in it for a long time, and then you take a silly wig off, and it's like, oh, it's a bummer. I was kind of having fun being that guy. It's cool. So.
Was characters your first love as far as comedy goes, or was it improv?
I think characters, yeah. I mean, just comedy and characters, and yeah, I can remember just, growing up in Canada, I was, of course, watching a lot of, there was SCTV, and then we had, Saturday Night Live and Monty Python, and then in my high school years, it was Kids in the Hall, and I mean, characters, I mean, just even in movies, like, you're like 12 years old and you're watching, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, and which is my favorite film, and whether or not I'm conscious of it, Del Griffith is quite a character, and Neil Page is the perfect straight man. And by the end, when we get to the end of that ride with them, it's like, with just being a young someone who wanted to be an actor, it's like you sort of are being taught like, well, here's how you do it. You can take this character and this straight man, and you can tell a story. And just innately, I was like, oh, I love that. And then you start goofing around in the schoolyard.
So you've never done pranks on camera. What about off camera? Were you ever a prankster? Or?
Yeah, I was actually. Good question, because I used to do that a lot in high school. We would drive around, with like a buddy who could get a hold of mom and dad's minivan, and we'd do all sorts of stuff, like things that I thought were funny. Like I would roll up on people and just be like, I don't know, I thought this was too funny, and now I'm remembering this now and have not brought this up at all during all the press we're doing for the show here because it's a boring story. And yet I've already dipped my toe in, so here we go with a really boring story. Something that we will never have on Fool Canada. Basically just roll up to someone and go, hey, can you tell me how to get to so-and-so? And then as they start talking, you just drive away. All right, thanks. I thought that was, me and my buddies thought that was hilarious. I mean, nothing we'd rather do more than just get a, belly full of 7-Eleven chips and stuff, and then drive around asking people for directions. Real high comedy.
It's a wonderful time in life, though.
Yeah.
Those silly little pranks.
Yeah, you can test it out.
I'd imagine in all the projects you've worked on, there must have been some pranksters there.
Oh, yeah.
Is there any that stand out for you as people that You just had to watch your back working with this person.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, yeah, Mad TV, there were a lot of pranks. I don't know how much or how little I should say, but Deborah Wilson would take all of her clothes off all the time. This is some time ago. Like now you can't do that. You can't do that now. There would be problems if you did that now. But she would always be naked. I'm talking about I'm saying always. I don't know if this is fair to say on the show or worth bringing up.
Go for it.
Forcibly breastfed me once. That's true. Referred to it as mama's milk, said, baby, you need mama's milk. You need mama's milk. And Deborah Wilson, if you know and love Deborah Wilson like I do, you know that she is wiry. She's so strong. And I couldn't get her off of me, and I'm a young kid in my early 20s at that point, essentially kind of the same build I was when I was playing football. And I'm like, oh, this is all right. No. You can't, she's a spider. You can't get her off you. And there I am on like a couch in the writer's offices with her breast in my mouth, past my teeth.
But were you also maybe a little bit curious?
A little, of course. Deborah's a beautiful woman, but that's not the way I want to be deflowered in Hollywood. You know what I mean? I'd like it to be on my own terms. Yeah, there was stuff like that. I mean, I'll forego the next 13 or 14 Deborah naked stories, but yeah, there's stuff like that.
It was a pranking environment.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you had to have an incredibly thick skin over there. And then there was, I did the series on ABC after that for a few years called Less Than Perfect. And also, ended up being, great friends with everyone I was working with there. And I was doing a lot of pranking then. A lot of it was just, I guess what I can say safely on air is that I would use Zachary Levi's restroom a lot, and then I'll let you just fill in the blanks and decide what I would do in there. But it would usually take some work for him to undo what I did, or at least he would have to call in maintenance or some sort of custodial department because, things would get out of hand, and then I would just say, oh, I'm sorry, I had too much kale at lunch. So, again, some more highbrow stuff. I'm an adult. I enjoy comedy and poo humor. And so I did some stuff like that in some of my cohorts' dressing rooms because, I really want to...
These things never get old.
They never get old. No. And if we see a season 2 of Fool Canada, I think May I Use Your Bathroom guy is a lock for a new character. Can I use your bathroom? Same dude that you just saw. Hey, I remember you. What was that? Yeah, Jen's father. Right. Can I use you mind if I use your restroom? I appreciate it. And then just things go absolutely insane. And there's a lot of, we bring a lot of props in, a lot of, forget it. All right.
We're pitching ideas for season 2. I like it. This show is set in a Canadian context. It reveals some things about our culture here. Mm-hmm. What do you think it says about Canadians?
Well, look, what we hoped was that it would highlight how polite we are as a people. And, like I said earlier, it was hard to bank on much because there's so many variables and so many things that will be unpredictable, that will go wrong and will go right. But one of the things that I was really interesting to me is just how polite we are as a people, as Canadians. And it was really pretty cool because as you're walking that line, you're in the middle of some silly bit. And I don't like aggressive humor. I don't like to piss people off. I really don't. So, but you can push and you can pull back and you can sort of figure out where their line is. And there was this ever present. Well, I'm proper. I'm going to be polite to this stranger, especially if the character seems like they're confused or from somewhere else. They were totally welcoming, and even if, at the very worst, they wanted nothing to do with me, a lot of times they would want to help me get away from them. Like they were still helpful and polite. Like, no, I can't help you. But so you end up getting traction out of that because I'm being a giant jerk and they're still polite. So I hope what people can see is when they watch this thing is what I saw, which is, I don't know. You walk on, I don't know. I get one take. You don't know if things are going to work or not. And I hope that Canada can see some of themselves in that lovely generalization of we're polite, which I embrace.
There's a lot of Canadians down in LA. I wonder if you notice that in Canadians down there when you're in the States.
They're polite?
The politeness.
Some of them have become Americanized bees, but a little more aggressive, dipping into flowers and that sort of thing, kind of more territorial. Yeah, you can always sort of, someone like enunciating all their words. I was like, "Are you Canadian? I didn't know you were Canadian." Sometimes I jump right to it, based on how someone says, 3, 4, or 5 syllable words. Are you Canadian? No. Yeah, I think. Look, it's like being. You know what? In LA, being from Canada is like being from Chicago. There's, he's that guy, Jimmy, Chicago guy. He's good. He's an improviser, Chicago. So and so. Oh, he's a good guy. So because if there's a harsh generalization that's true about Los Angeles, it's some of the bad things, which are true. So Canada's a giant village, and yeah, when you meet another Canadian, they're usually easy to predict in a good way.
What do you think it is about Canadians that makes us more polite?
Man, I think our properness and our politeness just goes way back to like literally the fact that we're a part of the Commonwealth. Like I just think there's like I think that's one of the holdovers of just literally where we're from. You know what I mean? I honestly believe that. And I think it's of course taken on its own sort of it's got its own appearance here. It's got its own individuality here, and being Canadian is of course being Canadian. It doesn't mean being part of the Commonwealth or any sort of UK or anything like that. It's not that.
Yeah.
But I think it's rooted in sort of the proper UK thing, and then from there, this country has. Look, it's interesting for me being someone who lives in America and has lived in America since I was pretty young adult. That this country is different. It's very different from the United States, and we do have our own our own way of doing things. The term multiculturalism isn't used as much down there, and sort of the term diversity is now something they're talking about down there. You know what I mean? And usually people used to stay in their own pools, and now it's like no, we got to mix it up. And here in Canada, it's like look. My parents are immigrants; they're from Italy, so. There was we're keeping some of our own culture, on Sundays when we're cooking pasta and stuff. But, my father was really all about being Canadian. He wanted to be in the forest and hunt ducks when he was like a 10-year-old in Italy where there's none of that. So, it's like that melting pot, mixing thing here, I think has a lot to do with the politeness and properness too. I don't know.
Interesting.
Yeah, I'd like to take a course on it or something. I'm not very well read when it comes to that.
No, it's interesting. In my visits to America, I find that we're way more polite, but they're friendlier.
Really?
That's what I find. You know what I mean?
Polite. Part of being polite is being guarded.
Yeah, and like leaving people alone.
Yes. Yeah. That's a huge Canadian thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I've got that rooted in me deeply. Even when I literally, this is true. I saw a guy in my grocery store who's an actor, and he's got a small part in this movie that I love, and I didn't go up to him to say hi because I didn't want to bother him. And I just remember that it was like 5 years ago or something, being like the last time I'm going to do that. I've got to step up to people who, and I think that has a lot to do with being Canadian. Because I should offer encouragement to that fellow actor and be like, hey, you were really great in that thing, and I love that scene, and when I see that movie, that scene, and when you said this, who doesn't want to hear that? Yeah. But we are super polite. And I see it here when I get to come home to Canada to work. But people just want to stay out of your way. Or they also want to just they're happy that you're back, but they just don't want to take any of your time. They
think that's the downside to our politeness.
Sure, that's really interesting and good to hear from a Canadian because, it's like this silly clip. Like that character was like a thing we kind of threw out there on the last day. Like that character came out of nowhere because we, interestingly enough, lost a location. It was like, well, what if we just stay here and do this? And cameras were already set up for something else. I'm like, well, if we can time meeting someone in the street, blah, blah, blah. That character, I was like, well, what if he sounded Italian? Well, then he would be Mario and Luigi, and no one would buy, hey, how are you? Good to see you again. What is that sandwich you are eating? It's like, who is this cartoon character? So he has a little bit more of a city affect, and that character's kind of American, you know what I mean? And maybe that's why the Canadian guy's like, oh, okay, weird New York dude who somehow stepped out of a wormhole into my, the streets of Mississauga. I'll help you find out where you know me from.
Who is the most ridiculously polite person you met while filming Fool Canada.
Oh boy, oh boy. How about there was a guy who let me pick him up and put him in a barrel. That's a polite dude. There were several. The guy, yes, a gentleman who let me pick him up completely, his entire body weight. By the way, he was wearing an improvised sort of rope diaper that I had wrapped around him, and then I put him in a barrel. Oh, and by the way, we were next to Niagara Falls, so that's very polite. Like, hey, I'll risk life to not be
To not hurt your feelings.
Yeah.
How hard is it to stay in character when you're doing these pranks? I mean,
I like staying in
you said
character.
you like staying in character for those long periods of time.
Yeah,
right?
I'd prefer to just stay in character. So that part to me was a lot of fun. There's but then there's some characters that aren't even a character. It's more of just a bit. And I may look a little different, but I'm just being myself. So that's kind of hard to stay in.
What would make me break is watching the wheels turn in people's minds. Like,
Yeah.
is that the funniest part for you?
Well, I'll tell you what, there's this one character that we just call King President, and the name of the character is Mar J. Leno. First name Mar, last name Jay Leno. And nobody ever picked up that his last name is Jay Leno. Nobody. Jay space Leno. Nobody ever. And he's like, of Middle Eastern descent, this character. And that guy, at one point, I have like a fake chest hair. And I was talking to these two women, and my chest hair started to ripple, like the lace, because it's like a chest wig, and it started to ripple. And one of the women just goes, "Your chest hair is moving." And I was like, "Oh, okay, I'm found out." But I kept going. But then she was cool with it. Like, she's just like, "Oh, this gentleman wears a chest merkin. I'm not going to judge." And it didn't throw her off. So I was like, oh, I can do just about anything. I also have tape on my eyes to make me look like this. So I've got like fake chest hair coming out of my shirt and my eyes like this and talking like, welcome to would you like a taco? I've got very good taco stand. And even rippling chest hair doesn't take you out of it. People will buy. Once you get in, they're kind of like, it's a real person. Weird real person.
That's kind of a scary thing about human nature. When you're confronted with something that's strange and surreal, we don't notice, or we just like try to make it normal in our mind or something.
Yeah. Yeah, no, there's a lot of, that's the sort of the gears you could see turning. That you're right about that. That did happen a lot because people would, again, it goes back to the inherent politeness, but they will try to make it make sense.
Exactly.
Right? Like, this is out of the ordinary, but it's sort of like shock. Once something weird is happening, if anything happens that's like shocking, your human response system is to deal with it. So these people would be in unbelievable situations, and the stuff that we really want to get is that reaction. What happens next when a real person is faced with something super weird?
Yeah.
So that's when it gets really interesting, and that's when I can see them going, what is going on?
Just trying to rationalize it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now that you have this show, are you more paranoid about people pranking you?
No, maybe less paranoid because I know what the hides look like where the cameras would be, because our crew was incredible. They would show up and you would, they'd be there, of course, hours before I got there and just setting up in a location. And then I would get there and I'd be like, I know that was with us a week ago. What is that porta potty ours? No. What about that one? Yeah, that's ours. So I think I would hope that I would, see, like, not get pranked because I'm looking for a lavalier mic behind someone's wig. Are you wearing a toupee or am I on a prank show? I don't know. That would be a good show, actually, to just prank people who do like hidden camera shows. Go out and get Ashton Kutcher over and over and over again. Did an entire season. Yeah, we shot 80 pieces where we completely fool Ashton Kutcher. We had to pay him $50 million, but it's yeah.
Were you worried about people recognizing you? You're a pretty recognizable guy.
Well, part of me was like, it's weird because it's like you gotta go like, well, I don't want people to recognize me, but that means that I think I'm recognizable. So then you can't say that. So I would just say, I think we need thicker glasses. But yeah, I was worried about some people recognizing me.
Yeah.
But once there's like, it's like I'll meet someone who goes, "Hey, aren't you that guy from that show?" And I go, "What?" And they know exactly what they're talking. "Hey, you were in that movie where blah blah blah." And I go, "Oh yeah, that was me." And they go, "No, it's not you." And I go, "Okay." And they go, "Yeah, it's you though, isn't it?" I go, "Yes, my name is Will." "What's your last name?" "Sasso." "It is
They're
you."
quizzing you.
But then they go, It's not. Remember when you did, and they know lines from a thing. And I'm like, okay, clearly you know I'm me, but they still have this. They've never met you in person, which is different. So like, I don't think it's you. I'm like, this is the dumbest conversation of all time. I'm fine for you to not believe I'm me, but I'm me. So that's weird coming from. So when you got that, and that's a person who knows some of my stuff. You got that, and it's like, I'm wearing glasses and or whatever. I've got a hat on. Like, that's enough for most people.
Yeah.
And then there was one guy who, and this only happened once. There was one guy, I got through an entire bit with him. It was a short little bit. And at the end of it, in character, I'm like, okay, hey, thanks, man. And he went, all right, Will, take it easy. I was like, But he stayed the whole time. He's like, I'm not going to sell it. I know who that is. Who cares? You know, but then some people, there were a couple people like, hey, what are you doing, Will? Hey, where's the camera? Come here. Hey, Will. Yeah, all right. Hey, cool. What are you doing now? What happened with that Three Stooges movie? Didn't do so well. Anyway, good to see you. You shooting something here? What is it? Hidden camera thing? Not for me. All right, take it easy. And you're like, all right, this is going to go great. So that's a real good, good warm up for what we're about to shoot here. Please get away from me, sir. We're trying to make television.
You said earlier on you don't really like aggressive humor. Were you ever worried at any point with this filming
that things would get aggressive?
That things were getting
yeah. Early on, I was like, are we gonna have like literally? I was like, is there gonna be? Should we have a security thing? Like, should we have?
Is a sniper or something?
No, just like exactly. Just someone with just sandbag bullets and just a big shotgun that you'd use to like shoot squirrels in the wilderness or something. Or just a dart.
Double prank.
Yeah. Anybody who just, it should just be CBC executives with their own with their just darts with, just like if they don't like the way the bit's going, they just like shoot in the rubes in the neck and they just pass out A-Team style. And Hannibal, just like drives a van and BA's, man, I getting in no plane, Hannibal. We got to get these rubes out of here. This bit didn't work. CBC's upset. What was the question? No. Yeah. I wasn't too worried about it. I don't know. And then, whatever. I'm a big beefy dude. I think the idea was, well, if you get in trouble, you're on your own. You're your own security detail. You don't need help in your real life. What's going to happen? Someone's going to punch you in the face. It's going to be great TV.
One more question about the downside of our politeness. You play some authority figures, and you got some Canadians kind of blindly obeying authority. Yeah. Did that worry you at all? Watching that happen?
That I'll be honest with you. That worried me the most. There's one character that I do that I approached it differently every single time I did it. He's a transportation officer because I was like, I don't think, and I'd be talking to the producers going like, I don't think they're going to buy it. And the producer would be like, Charles would be like, no, I think they're going to go for it. I'm like, they're not. And then he'd be right and I'd be wrong. And I'm like, they really respect the badge. He's like, I don't know. So some people didn't. But it's interesting to say most people did. Most people respected the authority. And then it was, for me, a mixing of, well, I'm uncomfortable right now telling this person what to do. But then the other side of it is, well, I think this character should talk a little bit less about, the rules and regulations that a transportation officer would be discussing and a little more about his steampunk art that he's interested in doing. So I could do stuff like, I hate that. You know what, to be honest with you? I hate this job. Let me tell you what my real deal is. I've got a ska band. Would you like to come see? And then people are like, what? Anyway.
Maybe we'll end with your number one all-time prank that you've done or seen.
Number one all-time prank that I've done or seen. Man, oh man. Oh, that's good. Ooh, that's good. I don't even know the best prank. Oh, I know the best prank. I don't know that it was seen. Well,
you don't have to have seen it. Just,
best
one
prank. Oh, well, I hear that. I remember hearing this, and this is a Canadian story told to me by Mike Short, brother of Martin Short, writer on SCTV and Mad TV, and he told me a story about. And I actually met this gentleman recently. Not Mike. I've known Mike for years, but I met Howie Mandel recently, and I'm going to quantify the story. So until then, let me just share it willy-nilly as if it happened. Yeah. But I hear that Howie Mandel, this is a prank that Mike Short told me. Oh, this is a super Canadian story. That Howie Mandel had a buddy of his visiting him from Canada, and I am going to hit up Mr. Mandel and see if this is true. He had a friend of his visiting from Canada. He pretended to have another friend of his in his house dressed as like a mugger, like someone who's like robbing, but like literally with a ski mask, like a central casting version, not just a dude in your house taking stuff. Like he's got to have a ski mask and like a Hamburglar shirt, you know, and a cape. And so he goes in Howie's house right after Howie picks up his friend from the airport, like buddy visiting from Winnipeg. They go into the house. Here's this guy. Howie fumbles for a gun. It's a blank. It's a showbiz gun. Boom, shoots him. Completely fake, and then asked his friend to put the body in the trunk of his car. And then I think they drove it to like the Angeles National Forest to really freak out this dude who'd never been to LA. And so my question for Mike was, okay, that didn't happen. He's like, no, that really happened. That really happened. Okay, but then he let him off the hook, right? No, I don't think he ever did. I don't think he ever left him out there. He just thinks that Howie Mandel's a murderer? So now if that's true, and now if it's not, that was a fun satirical little story. So I'll get the proof, and the next time I'm on the show, I'll let you know whether it actually happened or not. But I want to believe that happened. Best prank of all time.
I want to believe that happened too. Yeah. When we were looking forward to the confirmation.